Law, do to others what you'd have them do to you. Blessed is he who keeps the law. Matthew 5:7, Exodus 20, Romans, Hebrews. Hebrew letter shin, Hebrew point kamas, Hebrew point shin dot, Hebrew letter mem, Hebrew point peta, Hebrew letter ayin. Shama means to hear what is the law. Earbuds, less than 30 minutes at a time at less than 50%. Love your neighbor. Love the Lord your God with all of your heart and with all of your soul and with all of your strength and with all of your mind, and your neighbor as yourself. Whoever exalts themselves will be humbled. Whoever humbles themselves will be exalted. I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of slavery. Freedom is beautiful. 3. You shall have no other gods before me. Jealousy is beautiful. 4. You shall not make for yourself a carved image, or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. 5. You shall not bow down to them or serve them, for I the Lord your God am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers on the children to the third and the fourth generation of those who hate me. 6. But showing steadfast love to thousands, b. of those who love me and keep my commandments. Purity is beautiful. 7. You shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain, for the Lord will not hold him guiltless who takes his name in vain. Care is beautiful. Remember the Sabbath day, to keep it holy. 9. 6 days you shall labor, and do all your work. 10. But the seventh day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. On it you shall not do any work, you, or your son, or your daughter, your male servant, or your female servant, or your livestock, or the sojourner who is within your gates. 11. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea, and all that is in them, and rested on the seventh day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and made it holy. Creation is beautiful. Restoration is beautiful. 12. Honor your father and your mother, that your days may be long in the land that the Lord your God is giving you. Honor is beautiful. 1. You shall not murder. Justice is beautiful. C. You shall not commit adultery. Loyalty is beautiful. 15. You shall not steal. Honor is more beautiful. 16. You shall not bear false witness against your neighbor. The truth is beautiful. 17. You shall not covet your neighbor's house. You shall not covet your neighbor's wife, or his male servant, or his female servant, or his ox, or his donkey, or anything that is your neighbor's. Gratitude is beautiful. https://www.youtube.com. Unless your righteousness surpasses that of the Pharisees and the teachers of the law, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven. Law is its own religion. What's written in the law? How do you read it? The higher the law is, the more logical it is. Now we know that the law is good if one uses it lawfully. Nature, to be commanded, must be obeyed. Bacon, the law limits every power it gives. Hume 180. Technically, the law never ends. Fulfillment is heaven on earth. The lawyer is inclined to ask, is this legal? Does this break the law? The Christian ought to be inclined to ask, is this true? Every story is the prodigal story. The Christian ought to be inclined to ask, is this loving? Appeals to the law are appeal for permanent sustainability. But his delight is in the law of the Lord, and on his law he meditates day and night. He is like a tree planted by streams of water, which yields its fruit in season and whose leaf does not wither. Give to Caesar what is Caesar's, and to God what is God's. Do to others what you would have them do to you. Physics, studying the laws that govern the universe. Christopher Gerardo. Where there are laws, there are formulas. The lawyer asks, does this break a rule? God asks, where are you? Who told you were naked? Have you eaten from the tree of which I commanded you? You shall not eat from it. Implication: because God is a father, he is a counselor before he is a judge. Tangibility, promise, character. Covenant centering rainbow law greater than dice. Consistency, law is proof, no laws are bad. Cares, law loves, nurtures. Moses argues. To unto others God's character. I do not change. Tapestry is a rule. Justice frees, law is flawless. Character plus logic, rights have rights. Jesus stole the law. Order simplifies, law connects. Law greater than Jew, medicine greater than Greek. God's consistency, God's eternal will. Good laws are clear, be fruitful and multiple. Fill the earth, subdue it, have dominion. God's heart is his will. Torah means teaching. I am the Lord your God, all life grows. Good laws foster growth. The best stories are true. The difference between proof and persuasion is the difference between law and love. Grounds are your rules. Wall is order. Law is bridge. Good laws are consistent. Christian law is advocacy. What's written in the law? How do you read it? Legalism, tricks, and traps. Law makes clear and free, the law is reason. Aristotle 180. The opposite of the law is anarchy. Random. The opposite of order is chaos. God never changes. Grand God is potently consistent. Law greater than sower, free greater than garden. Justice is following the law. Robert, higher laws govern lower laws. Shalom is the purpose of the law. Identification precedes justification. Lawyer's dog, doctor's cat, promise rooted in character. Kids under 4 car seat, we are governed by laws. Whether we realize it or not. If you can perfect it, you own it. Change is the law of life. Kennedy. Freedom begins with conversion. I will remember my covenant. The law of the Lord is perfect. Every law that is unclear is unjust. The law is interdependent killer. The purpose of law is freedom. Image is ownership. Dr. Brian Lords. Renewable energy is born of covenant. Love is the fulfillment of the law. Fades prison, glories freedom. The young man knows the rules, but the old man knows the exceptions. OWH, if it's completed, it's beautiful. God laws do not create catch-22s. Good attorneys empower the weak. Great peace they have who love your law. Where law is fulfilled, life abounds. Pharaoh's primary accusation was laziness. Moses primarily petitioned for release. Jesus primarily advocated for rest. The best interpreter of the law is custom. Marcus Tullius Cicero 180. What goes up must come down. Newton. Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. Whoever exalts himself will be humbled. Whoever humbles himself will be exalted. Contract creates intimacy, stability, and freedom. Killer. Slavery compromises, freedom converts. Hebrew law is more like a heartbeat than a contract. It keeps pursuing right relationship, rhythmically, seasonally, eternally. The laws we write reflect our character. Weight guides order, beauty guides law. Sin is to crime what faith is to miracle. In my inner being I delight in God's law. Let what you say be simply yes or no. God's law weaves all life back together. The Holy Spirit is a legal advocate. Killer. Balance is to order what dances to law. When norms are disrupted there is confusion. When laws are established there is order. No low's order, love's law, God's a dance. Two truths cannot contradict one another. Galileo. The freer you are, the less time you waste. You shall have no other gods before me. But he holds his priesthood permanently, because he continues forever. Good lawyers are consistent under pressure. The alternative to covenant is everyone doing what's right in their own eyes. Injustice neglects law. Justice fulfills the law. God always takes the simplest way. Einstein. Nature never breaks your own law. Da Vinci. 1. Exponentiation and root extraction. 2. Multiplication and division. 3. Addition and subtraction to a legal and economic reset button. Where laws end, tyranny begins. William Pitt. All law serves the purpose of right relationship. Laws are the fastest way to get to limits. I will make an everlasting covenant with them. The law of the Lord is perfect, reviving the soul. The Lord is our judge, the Lord is our lawgiver. Do not think I have come to abolish the law. They were addicted to their rules. Erwin Lutzer. The speed of light is a law. Neil deGrasse Tyson. Or, was thought to be and now for most practical purposes is. The law of the Lord is perfect, reviving the soul. The law always limits every power it gives. Hume. Do to others what you would have them do to you. Don't blaspheme God or curse a ruler of your people. Motion tends towards the center of gravity. Da Vinci. Nature uses as little as possible of anything. Kepler. Art without law is powerless. Law without truth is injustice. The one with the most knowledge has the most freedom. In ancient Hebrew culture, the priests were the judges and the jury. The people were the executioners. The more corrupt a state, the more numerous the laws. Tacitus. The law of God is an expression of God's actual nature. Tim Keller. https://en.wikipedia.org. To the degree that you can empathize, you can advocate. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. In the Bible, the law is the means for relationship. Keller. Neither son loved the father for himself. They both were using the father for their own self-centered ends rather than loving, enjoying, and serving him for his own sake. This means that you can rebel against God and be alienated from him either by breaking his rules or by keeping all of them diligently. It's a shocking message. Careful obedience to God's law may serve as a strategy for rebelling against God. Dr. Keller. I have not come to abolish the law, but to fulfill them. Faith alone makes someone just and fulfills the law. Luther. Beauty makes promises. Truth makes laws. Jesus fulfills. The law doesn't save you, but love does. The purpose of the law is to teach people how to love. In this respect lies an art. In so much as philosophy is a science. Legalism focuses on prohibition and it robs us of life. Dr. Kim. Jesus focuses on God's presence to release life. Dr. Kim. Law is whatever can be boldly asserted and plausibly maintained. Aaron Burr. I am destined to be attracted to those I cannot defeat. Russell Crowe. Everything that rises must converge. O'Connor. Self-righteousness is defending yourself out of faith in yourself. Righteousness is defending the poor out of faith in God. Christians would rather have a rule than to think. Tom Nelson. If you make the center focus of your life the law, the central conflict of your life will be with Pharisees. When God's law is obeyed, the community is restored. Aaron's law. Don't let the sun go down while you are still angry. Bhutan. The happiest place on earth has a complete smoking ban. The holier someone is, the more you should follow them. What you are most afraid of ultimately is what controls you. The law has authority over a man only as long as he lives. Dan Webb. Your ears can only assimilate so much information. I will put my law in their minds and write it on their hearts. All morons hate it when you call them a moron. J.D. Salinger. The purpose of accountability is the restoration of community. If you are not firm in your faith, you will not be firm at all. What your words are bound to is what gives them significance. The law of the Spirit set me from the law of sin and death. To every action there is always opposed and equal reaction. Newton. The gospel is a response to the fulfillment of the law. Sinclair Ferguson. Thus the essence of legalism is rooted not merely in our view of law as such, but in a distorted view of God. The danger of the field of law is the danger of the church in Sardis. To any action there is always an equal and opposite reaction. Newton. Judicial decrees may not change the heart, but they can restrain the heartless. Dr. King. 140. Never forget that everything Hitler did in Germany was legal. Dr. King. The beginning of slavery is denial. The end of freedom is joy in service. Laws are silent in time of war. Cicero. Laws are clear in time of peace. The momentum of a particle is conventionally represented by the letter P. It is the product of two quantities, the particle's mass, represented by the letter m, and its velocity, v1. Display style P equals mv. God's potent consistency relativizes even eclipses our inconsistencies. I do not change, therefore you children of Jacob are not consumed. The purpose of law is freedom. Freedom is appreciating the beauty of life. For we hold that one is justified by faith apart from works of the law. Good laws make it easier to do right and harder to do wrong. Gladstone rules without exceptions are themselves exceptions. Ultimatums are born. Law is a living growth, not a changeless code. Justice. Benjamin Cardozo. The weightier matters of the law, justice and mercy and faithfulness. God's law is an expression of God's character, our nature. Dr. Timothy Keller. Legalism is to be more concerned with, does this break a rule, than with, is this true? Legalism is to be more concerned with, does this break a rule, than with, is this loving? Woe to you lawyers also, for you load people with burdens hard to bear, and you yourselves do not touch the burdens with one of your fingers. God lawyers try to help people with their burdens. The whole point of the law is that our character would be consistent with God's. The more you look at what is perfect, the more you are disappointed by what is not. Truth is like the sun. You can shut it out for a time, but it ain't going away. Elvis. The law will go out from me, my justice will become a light to the nations. Justice that love gives is a surrender, justice that law gives is a punishment. Gandhi. Let what you say be simply yes or no. Anything more than this comes from evil. IP law. How do you incentive honor without discouraging creative exploration? Love defines what it means to act lawfully, and law defines what it means to act lovingly. TK. Obedience to God is always the wise thing to do, no matter what its cost. Tim Keller. Each problem that I solved became a rule, which served afterwards to solve other problems. Descartes. 180. Try to figure out what the problem is before you try to figure out what the solution is. If you have 10,000 regulations, you destroy all respect for the law. Winston Churchill. Breaking rules isn't interesting, it's making new ones that keeps things exciting. Nolan. According to Maslow, we have 5 categories of needs: physiological, safety, love, esteem, and self-actualization. The law itself is on trial quite as much as the cause which is to be decided. Chief Justice Harlan F. Stone. Legalism says we can change ourselves with our own power and our own strength. Keller. The more faithful you are the short term, the more free you are in the long term. Kua. Lamb's law. Now Jesus doesn't say woe to the lawyers because they were especially evil, but because hypocrisy is especially deadly, the higher up you go. Physics 1. A law stating that like charges repel and opposite charges attract, with a force proportional to the product of the charges and inversely proportional to the square of the distance between them. The concept known as the law of the instrument, otherwise known as the law of the hammer, it is tempting, if the only tool you have is a hammer, to treat everything as if it were a nail. Wikipedia. You waste the least amount of time when you are most aware of what is most glorious. Self-righteousness can feed upon doctrines, as well as upon works. John Newton. It is easier for heaven and earth to pass away than for a dot of the law to become void. The laws of nature are written by the hand of God in the language of mathematics. Galileo. Never attribute to malice that which is adequately explained by stupidity. Goethe. Heinlein law, an ordinance of reason for the common good, made by him who has care of the community. Thomas Aquinas et al.'s law, proposed by and named after Phil et al. In 2004-10, holds that the bandwidth of telecommunication networks double every 18 months, which has proven to be true since the 1970s. Children under age 2 years to be properly secured in a rear-facing child restraint system. All children under age 8 be properly secured in an appropriate child safety restraint system. You shall have the same rule for the sojourner and for the native, for I am the Lord your God. The kids that want to kill themselves are the kids who experience lawlessness, enemy, Error Durkheim. In probably the first law of its kind anywhere in the world, Genghis Khan decreed complete and total religious freedom for everyone. Jack Weatherford good lawyering brings the best out of the worst. Good engineering brings the best out of the best. Legalism lacks the supreme sense of worship. It obeys but it does not adore. Gerhard is Voss. It is impossible for us to break the law. We can only break ourselves against the law. Cecil B. DeMille so act that your principle of action might safely be made a law for the whole world. Immanuel Kant blind spots our neighbors, people who hurt you, people who look like people who hurt you, and higher laws. Anyone who doesn't take truth seriously in small matters cannot be trusted in large ones, either Albert Einstein. Jesus grew in popularity when he did miracles. He waned in popularity when he lost legal standing. Bring the full tithe into the storehouse, that there may be food in my house. And thereby put me to the test. My covenant with him was one of life and peace, and I gave them to him. It was a covenant of fear, and he feared me. The beauty of physics lies in the extent which seemingly complex and unrelated phenomena can be explained and correlated through a high level of abstraction by a set of laws which are amazing in their simplicity. Melvin Schwartz. The iron rule of nature is, you get what you reward for. If you want ants to come, you put sugar on the floor. Charlie Munger. Write them on the door frames of your houses and on your gates, so that your days and the days of your children may be many in the land. The law is interdependent. You can't break one without breaking all of them. You can't keep one without keeping all of them. Keller. Whenever the rainbow appears in the clouds, I will see it and remember the everlasting covenant between God and all life on earth. Woe to you lawyers, for you have taken away the key of knowledge. You did not enter yourselves, and you hindered those who were entering. The fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, forbearance, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Against such things, for truly I say to you, until heaven and earth pass away, not an iota, not a dot will pass from the law until all is accomplished. A firm consists of the system of relationships which comes into existence when the direction of resources is dependent on an entrepreneur. Ronald Coase. Therefore, whoever relaxes one of the least of these commandments and teaches others to do the same would be called least in the kingdom of heaven. Unless your righteousness exceeds that of the scribes and Pharisees, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven. For the lips of a priest should guard knowledge, and people should seek instruction from his mouth, for he is the messenger of the Lord of hosts. But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Against such things there is no law. Everyone to whom much was given, of him much will be required, and from him to whom they entrusted much, they will demand the more. He has told you, O man, what is good, and what does the Lord require of you but to do justice, and to love kindness, and to walk humbly with your God? Everyone to whom much was given, of him much will be required, and from him to whom they entrusted much, they will demand the more. The law of the Lord is perfect, reviving the soul. The testimony of the Lord is sure, making wise the simple. Do not think that I have come to abolish the law or the prophets. I have not come to abolish them, but to fulfill them. The more they lie, the more capable they are of stealing. The capacity to lie parallels the capacity to steal. Is perhaps the opposite also true? The more they confess the truth, the greater their capacity to create value. You will never have a greater or lesser dominion than that over yourself. The height of a man's success is gauged by his self-mastery, the depth of his failure by his self-abandonment. And this law is the expression of eternal justice. He who cannot establish dominion over himself will have no dominion over others. Leonardo da Vinci. I am the Lord your God who delivered you out of Egypt, out of the land of slavery. Weightier matters of the law, justice and mercy and faithfulness, train tithing, train tracks. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your strength, and with all your mind, and to love your neighbor as yourself. But if you judge the law, you are not a doer of the law, but a judge. This book of the law not depart from your mouth, but you shall meditate on it day and night, so that you may be careful to do according to what is written in it. For then you will make your way prosperous, and then you will have good success. And when he sits on the throne of his kingdom, he shall write for himself in the book a copy of this law, approved by the Levitical priests. And it shall be with him, and he shall read it all the days of his life, that he may learn to fear the Lord his God by keeping all the words of this law and these statutes and doing them. Life is governed by laws. Life is governed by a person who is consistent. Amendment IV. The right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrants shall issue. But upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched, and the persons or things to be seized. M. What is lawful is not binding only on some and not binding on others. Lawfulness extends everywhere, through the wide ruling air and the boundless light of the sky. The security of the field of law is the discipline of remembering history of our salvation. Garden logic moves from biggest problem to smallest. First collect the weeds and tie them in bundles to be burned, then gather the wheat into my barn. A.M. power, let both grow together. B. discipline, collect the weeds. C. store, gather the wheat. They have access to time and space, but they're not bound by anything. They can communicate interstellar. For it is not those who hear the law who are righteous in God's sight, but it is those who obey the law who will be considered righteous. Indeed, when the Gentiles who do not have the law do by nature things required by the law, they are law for themselves even though they do not have the law. Since they have shown that the righteous requirements of the law are written on their hearts. Torts greater than accidents, intentional torts, negligent torts, strict liability torts. In any relationship, there will be frightening spells in which your feelings of love dry up. And when that happens, you must remember that the essence of marriage is that it is a covenant, a commitment, a promise of future love. Keller. Where there is no law, there is no transgression. The greatest crimes in the world are not committed by people breaking the rules, but by people following the rules. It's people who follow orders that drop bombs and massacre villages. Banksy. Wall in peace, but the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Against such things there is no law. IP. Discoveries are property. How do you incentivize creation in light of the reality of theft? All theft flows from idolatry. All discovery flows from faith. Natural laws are the attempt to describe the unchanging. If one turns away his ear from hearing the law, even his prayer is an abomination. Take to heart all the words by which I am warning you today, that you may command them to your children, that they may be careful to do all the words of this law. For it is no empty word for you, but your very life, and by this word you shall live long in the land that you are going over the Jordan to possess. My covenant with him, Levi attached, was one of life and thy peace, and I gave them to him. No one will be declared righteous in his sight by observing the law, rather through the law we become conscious of sin. What a man does not understand, he does not possess Gerda. Do not think that I have come to abolish the law or the prophets. I have not come to abolish them, but to fulfill them. 18 For truly, I say to you, until heaven and earth pass away, not an iota, not a dot, will pass from the law until all is accomplished. 19 Therefore whoever relaxes one of the least of these commandments and teaches others to do the same will be called least in the kingdom of heaven. But whoever does them and teaches them will be called great in the kingdom of heaven. 20 For I tell you, unless your righteousness exceeds that of the scribes and Pharisees, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven. Legalism is applying the law in such a way that misses the heart and the point of the law. Legalism draws invisible lines between duty and beauty. God's law weaves all life back together. An object either remains at rest or continues to move at a constant velocity, unless acted upon by a force. Force is mass times acceleration. Without order, there is chaos. Luke Pacioli. Father of accounting, every action has an equal and opposite reaction. The larger the wall, the less the light will be. Da Vinci adherence to the law of God actually affords intelligence. Wozniak, the easier it is to do something, the harder it is to change the way you do it. One of the most sacred laws of physics is that nothing can travel faster than the speed of light in vacuum. But the speed limit has been smashed in a recent experiment in which a laser pulse travels at more than 300 times the speed of light. L.J. Wang et al. 2000 Nature 406-277. By thy law thou dost compel every effect to be the direct result of its cause, by the shortest path. These are miracles. Da Vinci. Law of buoyancy. Archimedes' principle. Zimmerman's law of complaints. Nobody notices when things go right. New creation is the solution to the problem of the law. The problem of the law is justification. Justification seeks approval. Consistency leads to certainty. If the weight of water displaced by the vessel below the keel is equivalent to the vessel's weight, whatever is above the keel will remain afloat above the waterline. Power from natural agents may go by a short line, and then in its activity greater. Grossest. Amenton's first law, the force of friction is directly proportional to the applied load. Amenton's second law, the force of friction is independent of the apparent area of contact. Coulomb's law of friction, kinetic friction is independent of the sliding velocity. Chemistry laws, Bullet, Avogadro's law. Beer-Lambert's law, Bullet, Boyle's law, 1662, relating pressure and volume. Charles's law, 1787, relating volume and temperature. Fick's laws of diffusion, Bullet, Gay-Lussac's law, 1809, relating pressure and temperature. Le Chatelier's principle, Bullet, Henry's law. Hess's law, Bullet, law of conservation of energy leads to the important concepts of equilibrium, thermodynamics, and kinetics. Law of conservation of mass continues to be conserved in isolated systems, even in modern physics. However, special relativity shows that due to mass energy equivalence, whenever non-material energy, heat, light, kinetic energy is removed from a non-isolated system, some mass will be lost with it. High energy losses result in loss of weighable amounts of mass, an important topic in nuclear chemistry. Law of definite composition, although in many systems, notably biomacromolecules and minerals, the ratios tend to require large numbers and are frequently represented as a fraction. Law of multiple proportions. Raoult's law. One cannot escape the feeling that these mathematical formulas have an independent existence and an intelligence of their own, that they are wiser than we are, wiser even than their discoverers. Heinrich Hertz. Heat is a universal solvent. The force of gravity acts in the direction of an imaginary line between the centers of each object. Da Vinci, the total amount of energy remains constant, there's no way to know that. The amount of usable versus unusable energy changes. Gates, the first rule of any technology used in a business is that automation applied to an efficient operation will magnify the efficiency. The second is that automation applied to an inefficient operation will magnify the inefficiency. We live in a world of rights that has no sense of purpose. We live in a world of tolerance that has no sense of dignity for those tolerated or conscience concerning what is to be tolerated. We live in a world of leisure and squander it on empty pursuit. We live in a world of comfort and convenience where we can accumulate anything we want except that which matters most. John H. Walton, Genesis Love. Love the Lord your God with all of your heart and with all of your soul and with all of your strength and with all of your mind, and your neighbor as yourself. 2. I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of slavery. 3. You shall have no other gods before me. 4. You shall not make for yourself a carved image, or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. 5. You shall not bow down to them or serve them, for I the Lord your God am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers on the children to the third and the fourth generation of those who hate me. 6. But showing steadfast love to thousands of those who love me and keep my commandments. 7. You shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain, for the Lord will not hold him guiltless who takes his name in vain. 8. Remember the Sabbath day, to keep it holy. 9. 6 days you shall labor, and do all your work. 10. But the seventh day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. On it you shall not do any work, you, or your son, or your daughter, your male servant, or your female servant, or your livestock, or the sojourner who is within your gates. 11. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea, and all that is in them, and rested on the seventh day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and made it holy. 12. Honor your father and your mother, that your days may be long in the land that the Lord your God is giving you. 13. You shall not murder. 14. You shall not commit adultery. 15. You shall not steal. 16. You shall not bear false witness against your neighbor. 17. You shall not covet your neighbor's house. You shall not covet your neighbor's wife, or his male servant, or his female servant, or his ox, or his donkey, or anything that is your neighbor's. Unless your righteousness surpasses that of the Pharisees and the teachers of the law, you will certainly not enter the kingdom of heaven. If you have to tell people you are and you aren't rule. Works with being rich, being powerful, race, singing, sexy, spicy, dancers, black belts. Doesn't work with self-evident truth. Whatever is already perfected. Truths for which you would have no incentive to lie. Pregnant, in love, the Messiah, art, friendship, bridges, baldness, age, a-holes, I'm tired. Consistency, which means that no theorem of the system contradicts another. 10. Validity, which means that the system's rules of proof never allow false inference from true premises. Completeness, which means that if a formula is true, it can be proven, i.e. is a theorem of the system. Soundness, meaning that if any formula is a theorem of the system, it is true. This is the converse of completeness. Note that in a distinct philosophical use of the term, an argument is sound when it is both valid and its premises are true. 11. Expressivity, meaning what concepts can be expressed in the system. Tell me it's never been done. Because the only real laws in this world, the only things we really know are the two postulates of relativity, the 3 laws of Newton, the 4 laws of thermodynamics, and Maxwell's equation. No. Scratch that. The only things we really know are Maxwell's equations, the 3 laws of Newton, the 2 postulates of relativity, and the periodic table. That's all we know that's true. All the rest are man's laws. So in everything do unto others what you would have them to do you.